So, hello everybody. My name is Dariusz Gibasiewicz, and it's a great pleasure that I've got a chance to say a few words about setting up a company in Poland. And maybe this title is a little bit misleading because we're talking about not only a company, but also about formation of partnerships. So, what we are going to talk about today. First of all, I would like to provide you with introduction, market situation, and tax rules in Poland. As well, we'll say a few words about the advantages of doing business in Poland and about that who can start running business in Poland. I'm sure that this question is of vital importance, particularly for you. After that, we'll touch on the forms of economic activity in Poland and also about the most important forms from the point of view of young persons. As well, we'll say a few words about sole tradership, characteristics of sole proprietorship, civil law partnership, as well non-registered activity, and register your business in the registers in Poland. After that, I will mention as well the question of the qualified electronic signature or trusted platform profile, electronic platform profile, and as well we'll say a few words about taxes numbers and forms of taxations and social security contributions and insurance. After that, we'll move to the point concerning the transformation of sole trader into a limited liability company, and as well we'll say a few words about registered partnership, characteristics of registered partnership, articles of association, or actually the deed of partnership, and representation and managing the affairs. And we'll touch on the liability of partners, registration of the partnership, required documents, and tax numbers and forms of taxation. The last issue that we would like to say a few words about is limited liability company, its characteristics, establishment of limited liability company. Of course, we'll say as well and mention the liability of shareholders and the company governing bodies, as well as single shareholder company, a limited liability company. We'll just end with the summary concerning the benefits of running a business in Poland, and there is no doubt that Poland is a great country to run a business over here. So let's start with the market situation and tax rules in Poland. There is no doubt, and it's obvious issue that investments are the essence of economy in every country, as well in Poland. And for Polish economy, small and medium enterprises are the most significant for a few reasons. They are the most of them, and they generate the highest revenue and employ the most employees. Small enterprises in Poland have a simple registration procedure, have numerous preferences for the start, have very low operating costs, are very flexible, enabled to easily change the type of your business, have a big influence on supply and demand. And everyone interested, both Polish citizens and foreigners, can start doing business in Poland. It's really very easy. So what are the advantages of doing business in Poland? The government have provided a number of facilitations for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. There are many of them, like binding tax law interpretations, simplified account rules for business having income less than 2 million euros, favorable social security contributions, preferential payments for up to 5.5 years, solutions for easier debt recovery, period of mandatory archiving documents concerning employees has been lowered from 50 up to 10 years. Archiving in electronic form is allowed as well. Regulations to facilitate company inheritance. The possibility to run a non-registration business when monthly income is lower than 50% of the minimum wage. And the right and possibility to suspend a company for an indefinite period of time. Of course, we get a mention as well that most activities do not require special permits, concessions, or license. Who can start the business in Poland? That's another question that we should try to answer right now. So, of course, if you meet any of the following conditions, you are bound by the same conditions and rule as Polish nationals, and you can register activity in the same way as Polish nationals. If you are a citizen of a member state of European Union or of the European Economic Area, if you are a citizen of another country and hold, among other things, permanent residence permit, a residence permit for long-term resident of the European Union, temporary residence permit granted in the connection with inter alia family reunion legally residing in Poland, refugee status, subsidiary protection, a permit for residence for humanitarian reasons or permit for tolerated stay, a temporary residence permit, and you are married to a Polish citizen residing in the territory of Republic of Poland, or you've got a temporary resident permit for the purpose of conducting business activity granted in connection with the continuation of business activity already conducted on the basis of an entry in the Central Register and Information on Business Activity, or temporary protection in Poland, or a valid Polish card. If you don't meet even any of those conditions listed previously, in order to run a business in Poland, you may conduct it only in the form of partnership or a company, a registered partnership, a limited joint stock partnership, limited liability company, and joint stock company. You can also join such companies, acquire and subscribe for shares. What are the forms of economic activity in Poland? Of course, we mentioned at the beginning one of the forms, which is the sole trader. We've got also companies and partnership. We've got civil partnership, which is regulated by the civil code. We've got also companies and partnership regulated by the commercial code, commercial companies code, and we can divide them, as we said before, into partnership and capital companies. Partnership, we've got registered partnership, professional partnership, limited partnership, and limited joint stock partnership. And we've got, as we said as well, capital companies, which are limited liability company, simplified joint stock company, and joint stock company. What are the most important forms of carrying out an economic activity in Poland from the point of view of a young person? From a point of view of person who begins the economic activity in Poland, basic forms of conducting activity are sole tradership, registered partnership, and limited liability company. Setting up above-mentioned forms of economic activity is the least complicated and takes least time. The above-mentioned forms make it possible to take advantage on most of simplifications and preferences provided by the Polish legislator for young entrepreneurs, and with some exceptions, they can be used to start any type of business. So let's start with the sole tradership. It's the simplest form of establishment intended for natural persons. It's registered in Central Register and Information on Economic Activity, and you can register it online at a web page which is dedicated to that. It doesn't require a minimum amount of capital. Accounting depends on the form of taxation, when taxing on a general basis, tax scale, and a flat rate tax. Simplified accounting, revenue and expenditure ledger, may be maintained, but only if in the previous year the revenue didn't exceed the amount of 2 million euros. For lump sums, records of lump sums are required, and there is no obligation to keep accounting records for the tax card. So as you can see, we've got a few forms that can be chosen by the sole trader. The entrepreneur is liable with all his assets for obligation and obligations arising as a result of running the business. And the name of the entrepreneur given in the registration and information on business activity must include at least the name of the applicant, for example, John Smith. It's possible to add other elements to the name of the company, defining the profile of the activity. We have to say as well that the entrepreneur has the sole right to represent his activity. And the entrepreneur is a personal income tax payer and as well may be subject to value-added tax. So the second form of running a business in Poland that we want to say a few words is a civil law partnership. It's not a very popular form, actually, in the everyday business. Civil law partnership, actually, we can define as a thing which is related to the self-employed entrepreneurs that form a group at so-called, as we said, civil partnership. And this partnership doesn't have the status of an entrepreneur, has no legal personality, cannot act in a court, incur liabilities or own property. All activities are performed by its partners on their own behalf within the scope of their business activity. And the civil partnership does not have its own company. Every partner is entitled and obliged to manage and represent the partnership. As a part of a civil law partnership, partners are jointly and severally liable for the company's obligations, which means that the entrepreneurs are liable with the joint property of the company and personal property without any restrictions. So we can say that civil law partnership does not have any legal personality and actually is not considered as a legal subject in the arena of commercial law in Poland. A few words about non-registered activity. We have to say that non-registered activity also is called as a trial activity, and thanks to it, a new entrepreneur has the opportunity to run a business without major formalities and obligations until his income or her income exceeds a certain threshold. You don't have to, and you don't need to register a company if you are a natural person and the revenues from your activity will not exceed 50% of the minimum wage in any month. In the year 2021, this amount is 1,400 Polish zlotys. You have not run a business before, or you ran it, but before April 30th, 2017, your company was removed from the register of entrepreneurs, and since then you have not registered it again. If your income exceeds the threshold in any month, you are obliged to register your business with the Central Registration and Information on Business Activities within 7 days from the date of exceeding the income limit. Another thing that I would like to mention is the question of registration your business in the Central Register and Information on Economic Activity. If you wish to start business activity as a sole trader or perform services in the form of self-employment, you should submit an application for entry in Central Register and Information on Economic Activity. This register is a business register with information on entrepreneurs running their business as a sole traders, so they are we can say they're self-employed in Poland. It allows you to set a company, update its data, and suspend or terminate your business. Registration is free of charge, and in order to register, you must complete the special form and deliver it to the city or the commune office. This procedure can be completed at an office, by post, and online, what seems to be quite functional and easy for the entrepreneur. And the easiest way to submit a registration application is online. However, to do so, a foreigner must have a qualified signature or a trusted platform for administration services profile. As I said, the very important question and the very important issue is the electronic platform for public administration services. And this is a Polish nationwide platform which was created for communication between citizens and public administration units in a unified and standardized way. The service providers are public administration units and public institutions in a particular entities performing tasks commissioned by the state. The participants of the platform include both central administration units and local governments, including municipal offices. Also, we have to touch on the qualified electronic signature or trusted profile, because you have to know that in order to obtain a qualified electronic signature, you should, First of all, purchase a qualified certificate from one of the certified suppliers, submit an application for an e-signature, verify your identity on the basis of your ID card or passport in one of the three places, at a notary, at the consulate competent for the foreigner's country of origin in Poland, or at the identity confirmation point. After positive verification, a qualified certificate is issued. In order to obtain a trusted electronic profile, a foreigner must obtain, first of all, we call it a parcel number, and this is necessary to submit and confirm the platform application. Foreigners who have a refugee status or permanent residence permit, after registering in Poland, will receive this number, and persons who cannot check in should submit a special application for this number. After obtaining the number, the foreigner should send an application for confirmation of the trusted profile, and then personally sign, submit an application for the registration of the signature confirmed by the trusted platform profile. Each entrepreneur has its own tax identification number that is used in the contacts with the tax office, and as well each entrepreneur has got its REGON number, which is number in the register of the Central Statistical Office. After the registration of the company, there is no need to provide additional information to the tax office or the Central Statistical Office. Those numbers are assigned automatically during registration. Now I will say a few words about the forms of taxation. One of the most important differences between employment and running a business is the possibility to choose the form of the personal income tax taxation. If you pay a personal income tax, you can choose general principles, so it means that you will have to calculate your tax with the usage of the tax scale, and 17% and 32%. General principles, it's called as well flat rate tax, and the rate is 19%. Lump sum tax on the registered revenue is the third form, and the fourth form is the tax card. Choice of one of the above-mentioned forms depends on the type of activity. Some forms of taxation can be applied only to certain types of activity. The costs you will incur during the activity, the amount of income or the willingness to take advantage of the preferences. It's possible to change the form of taxation during the course of the business, and the moment of change depends on the type of taxation. When we talk about taxation, we have to say a few words as well about social security contributions and insurance. If you are a foreigner sole trader and you are obliged to pay contributions to the Polish system, you have to contact the social insurance institution. As a consequence, you must register yourself as a contribution payer by filing in one of the following forms. It's ZUS ZPA if you are a legal person or an organizational unit without legal personality, ZUS ZFA if you are a natural person running a business on your own. You've got 7 days to submit your documents from the date of the first person's, for example, employees' justified insurance coverage. These contributions are paid for by the 10th day of each month and by the 15th day of each month if the entrepreneur employs employees. Also, there are certain types of social contribution reliefs for entrepreneurs. We've got relief for starting a business. If you take advantage of the relief, you don't have to pay social security contributions concerning old age, disability, accident, and sickness for 6 months, except health insurance contributions. Reduce contributions for 24 months if it's available after 6 months. That's relief for start and allows you to pay reduced compared to standard contributions for the full 24 months. And as well, we've got small contribution, we call it small contribution. It's available after 31st month which allows you to pay reduced contributions depending on your income for 36 months. Now we'll just move and touch on the question of the transformation of sole trader into limited liability company. So we have to admit and say it openly that a sole trader can be transformed into limited liability company. The transformation is carried out on the basis of succession of all rights and obligations into a company. The company acquires its own legal personality. There is a change in the form of taxation from personal income tax to corporate income tax. Limited liability company is added to the current name of the company. The name of the company can be changed during the transformation. If you choose a new company name, the previous name should be marked added for 12 months. The conversion is tax neutral. Property acquired in the course of conducting sole tradership becomes the property of the company. The entrepreneur is no longer responsible for the company's obligation with all his assets. The shareholders of the company are not liable for the company's obligations. The entrepreneur and the new company are responsible for the obligation of the sole trader before the transformation up to 3 years from the creation of the company. In the case of the transformation, it's not necessary to conclude new contracts with the employees who have been employed so far and contractors with whom the entrepreneur has already contracts signed. The next form of running business in Poland is registered partnership. It must be an organized and continuous specific commercial service, manufacturing, or other business activity. A general partnership doesn't have a legal personality. It's we call float legal person, which means it's not subject to the regulation and regulations concerning legal persons, including the provision of corporate income tax on the corporate taxes with the exception, and in principle it has no organs. A general partnership is a partnership and may be established by natural or legal persons. It may in its own name acquire rights and obligations under contracts and may act in the court itself. A registered partnership is registered in the National Court Register. In the case of registered partnership, there is no minimum capital requirement. The deed of the registered partnership shall include the business name and the seat of the partnership, the description of the contributions made by each of the partner and their value, the objects of the partnership, and the terms of partnership if it's specified. The deed of the registered partnership should be concluded in writing, otherwise it shall be null and void. The deed may also be concluded at using the template available on the website. Registration at the website requires a trusted profile or qualified electronic signature. How the partnership, the general partnership, is represented. Each partner may represent the partnership unless the agreement provides otherwise. Management of affairs of partnership. Each partner shall have the right and obligation to manage the affairs of the partnership. Ordinary course of business and outside ordinary course of business. Each partner may, without a prior resolution of the partners, manage the affairs within the ordinary business of the partnership, and in matters which fall outside of the ordinary course of business of the partnership, the consent of all partners shall be required, including those who are excluded from managing the affairs of partnership. What's the liability of partners in the general partnership? Each partner of a registered partnership is jointly and severally liable for its liabilities with other partners and the partnership. The partnership's liabilities are realized first of all from its assets, and a creditor of partnership may carry out enforcement from the assets of a partner if enforcement from the assets of a partnership proves ineffective. So we call it subsidiary liability of a partner. However, this shall not prevent a partner from being sued before the enforcement of the partnership asset has proved to be unsuccessful. Of course, we should register the partnership in the National Court Register. The procedure can only be performed electronically right now currently, and the application must be filled via particular and special portal, and the form should be completed in Polish. Documents should be signed electronically with a qualified signature of a trusted profile, and those documents should be attached to the application. Applications submitted on paper will not be considered by the registry court. So what's the cost of the registration? I'm sure it's also a point of interest and it should be said as well. When the deed was concluded with a notary, 500 Polish zloty, that's the court fee for the entry, and 100 Polish zloty, that's the fee for the announcement of the entry in the court and economic monitor. When the deed was concluded online, we've got 250 zlotys, that's the court fee for entry, and 100 Polish zlotys, that's the fee for the announcement of the entry in the court and economic monitor. A few words about taxes numbers and the forms of taxation. We said a few words about the tax identification number and the number for statistical purposes, and they are assigned automatically when the partnership is registered in the National Court Register. It should be remembered that in the registered partnership, each partner is a payer of contributions for his own insurance. Therefore, he should additionally register with the social insurance institution and submit an application to the social insurance institution. We should also remember that establishing a registered partnership results in the obligation to pay tax on civil law transactions. In order to fulfill this obligation, you need to, without the prior request of the tax office, submit a tax declaration within 14 days of its creation. Along with the declaration, the company should pay a tax 0.5% of the value of contributions made to the company. The tax base is the value of the contributions to the company. The value of contributions is determined by the partners and specified in the deed. It's not a market value. The notary remuneration for concluding the deed, if the deed is prepared by a notary, and the cost of registration with the National Court Register should be subtracted from the tax base. A partnership, a general partnership, is not regarded as a taxpayer in the field of income tax, with the exception. Taxpayers are only individual partners of a registered partnership. They pay personal income tax, proportional to income or linear, or they pay corporate income tax if the partner of the partnership is a legal person or just a taxpayer of corporate income tax. It should be remembered that the choice of taxation according to the personal income tax flat rate results in taxation of all income from business activity in this form. The partner's income is taxed in relation to its share. Of course, the partnership may be a value added taxpayer as well. The last form that I would like to touch on is limited liability company. The limited liability company is the most popular commercial company in Poland currently. It's an appropriate form of activity, for example, for shareholders who want to maintain direct supervision over the company's affairs and limit the risk only to their contributions. There is no liability with personal assets. Limited liability company is a commercial company with legal personality. It may be established by one or more shareholders, but it may not be established solely by another single person limited liability company. Its founders may be either natural persons or legal persons, regardless of their nationality or place of establishment. In order to be established, a capital should be at least 5,000 Polish zlotys, and this is the requirement provided by the Polish Commercial Companies Code. Upon the conclusion of the contract of a limited liability company, a limited liability company is established within the organization. It operates until the company is registered in the National Court Register. Therefore, in the initial phase of existence of a limited company, we've got a limited liability company in organization. What do we have to do just to set up for and establish limited liability company? In order to establish a company, it's necessary to conclude the articles of association, make contributions to cover the share capital, appoint the management board and, if necessary, a supervisory board or an audit committee, and register the company in the National Court Registers. The article of association shall contain the name of the register office of the company, determination of the company's business on the basis of Polish classification of business activities, the duration of the company when the company has been established for a definite period of time. As a rule, an appointment for a definite period of time is a principle. The amount of the share capital, a provision stating whether a shareholder may hold more than one interest, and the number and nominal value of shares subscribed by each member, by each shareholder. I'm sure that another question which is quite interesting is the liability of shareholders. The articles of association of a limited liability company must be drawn up in a form of notarial deed, and the exception is the registration of the company via internet. What's important when we're registering a company via internet, the partners of and actually the shareholders of limited liability company may only make cash contributions to cover the initial capital. The company is responsible for its liabilities with all its assets. The shareholders, and that's very important, are not liable for the company's obligations if they are not members of the company's management board, and the shareholders bear only limited liability up to the value of their contribution, but actually we can call it a business risk because it's not a legal risk. As we said before, shareholders are not liable for the company's obligations. If the execution against the company proves to be ineffective, the members of the management board are jointly and severally liable for its obligations. A management board member may release himself from the liability if he proves that a petition for bankruptcy was filed or restructuring proceedings were instituted in due time, that the failure to file the bankruptcy and to initiate restructuring proceeding was not due to his fault, or that despite the failure to file for bankruptcy and initiate restructuring proceeding, the creditor didn't suffer any damage. The company governing bodies are management board, general meeting, supervisory board, and audit committee. Each shareholder shall have the right to exercise individual supervision over the company. It may be limited or excluded in the contract, in the articles of association, if a supervisory board is established. A limited liability company may also establish a supervisory board or an audit committee, or both. In companies where the share capital exceeds 500,000 Polish zlotys and there are more than 25 shareholders, the establishment of a supervisory board or audit committee is mandatory. The company's highest authority is the general meeting of shareholders. The company shall be represented by its management board, consisting of at least one member, in accordance with the principles set forth in the Articles of Association. The company may also be represented by a commercial proxy. We have to say a few words as well about the single shareholder company, limited liability company, because single shareholder limited liability company is often chosen over sole trader. However, it should be remembered that a person setting up limited liability company on their own becomes the sole shareholder and the sole member of the management board of such company. As a result, its liability for the company's obligations becomes significantly extended. Board members can be responsible for the company's debts with all their assets. In a one-person limited liability company, there is an obligation to maintain the form of notarial deed in the event of undertaking legal actions between a shareholder and the company he represents. It may be, among others, transfer of a fixed asset to the company, for example, a car, a computer set, or purchase of a company assets by a partner for private use. Performing even the simplest activities will be associated with the high costs of preparing notarial deeds. Company is also double taxed. The company is obliged to pay corporate income tax, and its shareholders pay taxes on the company's income. It means dividends. This means that the same income will be taxed twice, unlike sole trader, where income is taxed only once with personal income tax. What about the registration of the company in the National Court Register? The procedure can be performed electronically, and actually can be performed only electronically because today there is no paper submission of the application. And the application must be filled via a particular and special portal. The form should be completed in Polish. Documents should be signed electronically with a qualified signature or with trusted profile, and also they should be attached to the application. Applications submitted on paper will not be considered by the registry court. Upon the conclusion of the articles of a limited liability company, a limited liability company is established within organization. It operates until the company is registered in the National Court Register. Therefore, it's the initial phase of the existence of limited liability company. During the period of the limited liability company's operation in the organization, apart from the preparing and submitting to the registry court an application for entry of the company into National Court of Register, the shareholders should also appoint the company's management board, the supervisory board if the articles of association so require, and make contributions to cover the entire share capital. Articles of association may be concluded with notary. The cost of preparing the document is approximately 1,300 Polish zlotys, 1,000 for a contract and 300 as a notary fee. The management board has 6 months to submit the articles of association to the National Court Register. The deadline is counted from the date of creation of articles of association. If the deadline is exceeded, the articles of association will be terminated. When drawing up articles of association in the form of notarial deed, the shareholders may bring to company not only cash, but also other types of property and rights, for example, an in-kind contribution. It's not necessary to draw up a written articles of association when registering online. This can be done on the template of the form provided on a particular portal. In this case, you also register your company in S24 system, which is dedicated for that. These articles of association, however, do not allow for any in-kind contribution to the company. It allows only for cash contribution. When the articles of association were concluded with a notary, the court fee for entry is 500 Polish zlotys and 100 Polish zlotys fee for the announcement of the entry in the court and economic monitor. When the articles of association were concluded online, we've got the court fee 250 zloty for the entry and 100 Polish zlotys for the announcement of the entry in the court and the economic monitor. The company is required to pay the tax on civil law transactions within 14 days of signing the articles of association. The tax declaration should be submitted on the special form. The tax constitutes 0.5% of the value of the company's share capital, so the tax on minimum share capital of limited liability company will be only 25 zlotys. The company is a corporate taxpayer. It means that it should pay corporate income tax. The tax is 19 or 9% in the case of small companies when the gross sales is up to 2 million euros and is paid by the limited company itself on the income earned by it in a given tax year. In addition, the company's shareholder pay tax 19% on dividends and other income from participation in corporate profits, for example, income from the redemption of shares. The basic category of income from participation in the profits of limited liability company is the payment of cash, so it means dividend. So let's summarize why you should start doing business in Poland. Starting a business in Poland by foreigners is not more complicated than in the case of citizens of this country. There are many aspects in favor of establishing a company or partnership, from the geographic and geopolitical location of Poland through the simplified procedure for registering a company or a partnership to the multitude of tax preferences for new businesses. Establishing the discussed forms of business is very simple, and thanks to the possibility of electronic registration in the registers, it's also quick and cheap. Therefore, choosing one of the three described forms will be the best solution for every entrepreneur starting his adventure with business. However, there are no obstacles to transform the company into a different, more demanding economic entity in the future. Poland is constantly, dynamically developing market. In 2021, over 30,000 new companies were created. This shows that the entities decide to open businesses here in trust in the state economic and fiscal policy of government. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that this short introduction will be very helpful for you in the future when you decide to start doing business in Poland.